Hello, and welcome to another episode of Banta with Toni. I'm just going to come out and say it. I did not have an episode last week because if you listen to the episode the week before, I was not feeling good. I was feeling under the weather, and you did not want me on this mic because the sinuses had gotten the best of me. I don't know what I got. I'm not conspiracizing. I don't know. But all I know is I took flu shot and then I was sick for what seems like 2-3 weeks. And last week it was just the worst. Like my nasal passages were just not, I had to rest. And it's funny because the episode before that we were talking about how Bodino before I would. So I had to take my own advice. I had to sit my butt down somewhere and take a chill pill. So that's exactly what I did. And, you know, just in this time where we have come to normalize like productivity is how we value our worth, just, you know, knowing to take our health seriously, knowing when to step back. You know, as I came back to doing this podcast again, I knew that I was going to be doing something in addition to everything else that I have going on in my life. And I love what I do. So I have my career, I have my family outside of this. And I love doing this as well. So finding that good balance. But one of the promises I made to myself was that it was not going to be at a compromise of me and what I'm trying to achieve here. So I still got to take care of me because health is very important. And so, you know, I'm back. I came back as soon as I could. And you know what? I probably should have maybe like done a post online saying like why I was gone. But, you know, I'm still a very small creator, so I feel like I can get away with being gone. Like, not a lot of people are going to notice. Maybe it's the wrong way of thinking. Maybe either way, whether or not I have 1 or 2 people listening to me, I should have at least said something. So I apologize. If there are any of you that were looking forward to an episode next Friday and it didn't happen and I didn't say anything and you're like, what the, you know, I do apologize. You know, we all make mistakes. So let's just get right into it. So episode 3, again, because I was sick, I have somebody who edits the audio part. So the audio part was ready for release and everything. But because I was sick, I'm the one that's supposed to be editing my own videos. We already talked about this. I am a one-woman show to a certain degree. So that could not even happen. So hopefully this week you guys are going to get 2 videos coming out. And, you know, I'm just trying different things. I'm trying to have somebody to promote the YouTube page because I don't have time for that. And I feel like that's been a hit or miss because whatever they did, I feel like it exposed me to a certain audience. But then now that I've kind of stepped back a little bit, I've noticed some changes in that. So I'm still trying to work out the kinks, you know. I'm trying to learn the things that I can take care of on my own and the things that I can outsource. And I feel like it's going to take, you know, it's a learning curve. So just bear with me. If you enjoy this podcast, keep sharing it with those you know and just, you know, keep supporting it. And we will grow and take it from there. So much has happened. So I'm trying to cover everything. And of course, I won't be able to cover everything. You'll have to come for episode 4 to see if I talk about something that you think I should be talking about. Okay. And as you can hear me, I'm still nasally. I apologize in advance for the nasalness. I just got some medicine into my system. I just got my nasal spray and all of that. So it shouldn't be an issue moving forward. But, you know, if it is, please give me grace. I am struggling here. It was rough. Let's just say that. It was very rough. And even through all of that, I still had to show up to work. So that was already something. Episode 3. So first things first, Tiwa Savage was on The Breakfast Club. And the first thing that I just want to say, you know, we always have to give grace and give people room to grow. I know a couple years ago, I've always loved Tiwa, but it was just like when she had done like I don't know what it's called, the installation of the King of England. And then the choice of song that she had picked, I was like, I wouldn't do that, you know, but everybody has chance to grow. If I was ever to interview her, I will ask how that song was picked. And maybe she has addressed it before and maybe I just have never seen the clip, but I would just be like, why did you pick that song? Why that? Because obviously of what it represented to the Black diaspora. If I'm already performing at that, I don't know if that's the song I would have picked because I just feel like it was like a little bit, you know, but she's back on the scene. She has new music coming out and she was on The Breakfast Club and I watched the interview and I thought the interview was good. And I guess the issue was she was on there apologizing for Tyla because they asked her questions about that. And she took it up as like her being like a big sister to Tyla, that she needed to just kind of apologize for her and say she didn't understand, you know, the context of what was being asked of her at the time and that she did not mean to offend. I understand where Tiwa was coming from with that, but I just felt like she was trying to fight a battle that was not even hers to fight. You know what I mean? And I think probably Tyla at this point, like she's a grown girl. She can handle her own. She can, you know, she felt like she articulated herself well when she was on the Breakfast Club at the time and explain things the best way that she could. You know, the word colored means something different in South African culture. And at the same time, South Africans have to also understand that it means something different in American culture. So I feel like this is like typical like diaspora discourse that's going on here, where both sides needed to understand the context of what it meant for each side. It could have been a better interaction of like education, which I think Charlemagne and the cast were trying to explain that to her, like what it meant. And then they were trying to understand her. But I don't know if that came through with the general public once the clips became like clickbait and it got disseminated and you're only getting like portions of it, not the whole thing. So I'm not sure if that came through for the regular listener at the time. So if I were her, I probably wouldn't have even said anything because I feel like, you know, one of the beautiful things about media is like as time passes, certain things die. And for the most part, we have kind of forgotten about it. I know when her album came out, or was it an EP? I don't feel like it was a full album. I think it was an extended play. There was a whole thing about her lacking sales and people felt like it's because of her communicating that she did not need the African American community. Unless I missed something, I don't know where she would have said that. So I would like for anybody to share with me and I will go digging and seeing. But I don't recall her ever saying that she did not feel like she needed the African American community. I think this whole thing stemmed from her use of the word colored and how she was considered colored. And of course, she did not understand the racial implications that that word carries here in America. But if there is a clip out there, I will do some better digging and I'll try to find it so I can give a much more informed take on things, because you should already know how I go. If I don't see something, I don't like to speak on it. That's just my personal preference because I'm never going to go based off anybody else's. I feel like this is just good work on my part. Like anything I'm talking about here, I should have seen for myself and form my own opinions. I can listen to the consensus, what everybody's saying, but I am going to consume it for myself and process it within myself and come to you with that. So for me, I just feel like maybe Tiwa shouldn't have just even said anything. She should have just been like, oh, yeah, that seemed like it was a mishap. You know, I feel sorry for her. I feel bad for her and just kept it moving because it ain't even got nothing to do with you right now. I thought she gave a good interview. And, you know, I think her interview just reminded me of so much that she has gone through being in the industry. There was a time when her and like Seishe had like an incident and it had almost gotten physical because they saw each other at I think it was a nail salon or something. And then Tiwa confronted her and said, well, you were throwing some diss records at me, so now I'm in your face kind of thing. Please repeat that which you had said back there. And that turned into a whole something. So for me over the years, I think I've always felt like maybe she would have been the one to bring on like other female artists. And I felt like over the years, it seemed like there was only room for her. And then you hear things about how, you know, there was like a sabotaging of other artists. So she felt like it was going to her. So I felt like it was good that she addressed that. And then I felt like in that Breakfast Club interview, she brought it up and gave her reasoning for the fact that she hasn't brought other artists. And I wish other artists would be like that honest. Because, you know, back in the day, there was a whole time when like all these different artists would be signing other artists. And then you kind of like wouldn't hear from these artists that they had signed. I remember like when Kanye at the time had signed on like D'banj. Tiana Taylor, I think at one point was even signed to her. And I remember like it was almost like she was in like a waiting period for the longest time. So I think Tiwa knowing that about herself, like, hey, I'm not going to give them all the resources that they need. And she's like, okay, I'm still in that mode of like competitiveness. So I will probably be more focused on myself and what I need and not so much like even being the best manager to them. So for the good of everybody, that's just not something I can take on. I think Olamide has transitioned well in that area. Like he now manages other people or have brought on other artists and he's still making music. But even in that time when he had to do artist development, he himself had to step back as an artist to be able to give them the all that he could give. I mean, the success of Ashake, if you really look at it, it is due to the connection with Olamide and YBNL Records, okay? So I think it's a good thing for artists to know that about themselves. Like not everybody's going to be good at developing other people. And once you know that, then okay, you think about what other ways can I contribute to, you know, leading the music forward, but it won't be like an artist development. So I like that part of the interview. Next pop culture topic, the Chandler Moore, the anointed voice, one of the anointed voices of gospel music, came out with a lawsuit against Norman Gyamfi. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. That man done pissed me off during the summertime when he went on that podcast and said that nobody wants to be hearing all the hooting and hollering. So I was already mad at him. And then I think one of the things that when I watched that podcast, I'm trying to remember who the artist was that has the podcast. You don't have to search too far. Just Google Norman Gyamfi or you look for the Maverick City founder interview podcast, whatever. I'm sure Google will bring it up for you. But I think one of the things that made me so angry when I had watched that the first time was the fact that we're dealing with gospel music. I feel like gospel music is so sacred. There have been many opportunities for me when going to church to participate in praise and worship. And there were times when I dabbled in it for a little bit, but I've always respected that so much that I took it as a very big undertaking. I felt like if I was going to go up there every Sunday and sing, for the 5 days leading up to me going there every Sunday and singing, I have to be in the spirit. I have to be deep in the word. Like, I expected a certain level of commitment to not just the craft of singing, but the spiritual aspect of it, that I never wanted to put myself in that position. I never wanted to take that on because I did not feel like I was completely capable of taking that on. So I say all that to say, when I see a gospel artist, that is the expectation for me. You know, everybody's living life. So maybe right before you even start writing or coming up with an album, that you're spending time in the word, you are, fasting and praying, because your music is your ministry. And I expect a certain level of spirituality that comes with it. So when this man draws the veil, and behind the veil, he's telling me, we don't do none of that. Behind the veil, he's telling me, we don't care about none of that spiritual stuff. We don't even pray. There's no being led by the spirit. At least from his perspective, everything is decided by algorithms. Oh, Lord. I said, we have lost the plot. The plot has been lost. What? And then when he was leading from a place of the flesh and a place of just money making, and then he'll come back and double back and feed you nonsense, because he'll come back and say, well, God told me, that pissed me off even more. Because it's already one thing to be who you are, be who you are and be who you are proudly. But being who you are, knowing that the motivation for you is not even the word of God, it's about you making money. And even the way he was saying that he was trying to set up things, it was almost like an ego thing, because it's you will get to the point where nobody can make it without me. You will need to come through me. Sir, who are you? If I'm singing gospel music, it's because God called me to it. What do you mean I cannot prosper without you? That's a very egotistical place to come from. You're not the one that gives people the gifts. So when I even heard all those things, I'm like, oh my God, this is problematic. Because it's hard sometimes, because I'm sure the artists that made music, Maverick City, all of them there are times they were led by the Spirit. The music that came out as a result of that, there's no way you can deny some of it. And especially given the times that we were experiencing, during the pandemic, and how that's the time, some of that music blew up. I believe in my heart of hearts that during that time, that's what we needed. And, God ministered through their voices and their art to bring that to us. Nobody can convince me otherwise. So the artists themselves clearly are being led by the Spirit, but the person managing them clearly is not. And I feel like that's a big disconnect. And for me, the two have to marry. The person managing you, your whole team, all of them have to believe in what you stand for, have the Christian values. Let that be what is leading them, and not, I think I saw somebody say the Suge Knight of gospel music. Precisely that. Don't be the Suge Knight of gospel music, and then you're out here every now and then you say some crazy stuff, and then you come back and you say, well, God told me. God didn't tell you a dang thing. Don't be out here lying on Jesus. Did not tell you a dang thing. He never even talked to you, bro. You were talking to somebody. Yourself. You were talking to yourself, sir. Jesus was not involved. He was not in the room. He was not picking up the line. He did not know your name. You were speaking another language. Everything but him. Everything but him. Okay. He was not there. Sir, I can tell you for a fact, he was on holiday that day. I don't know who you were talking to, but it wasn't Jesus on the main line. Because what? So much of it was, I think, that the pulling of the veil. And I'm a person that believes that everything happens for a reason. I don't know everything that was going on behind the scenes, but I felt like it presented the perfect opportunity. If Chandler and Naomi and everybody else have ever maybe had some questions about it, everybody's like, well, this is what happens when somebody who's behind the scenes come out and show their face. This is good. Because he came on here unprovoked. Nobody asked him. He spoke his truth and he told us what was in his heart. And once I knew that, then I had to position myself correctly and be like, okay, anything that you're putting out, I will be exiting myself from, because clearly it's a different kind of agenda. Go ahead and manage regular music artists. There's variety there. But for me, Christian music, gospel music, it's sacred. There's a level of commitment that I expect when I hear an artist. I don't want you to be writing music that you wrote regularly and then you throw God in there somehow and then say it's gospel Christian music. No, I want to hear, I was reading my word. This is what it led me to. This is something that I went through. And after going through that, as I'm, understanding more and going deeper in my relationship with Jesus, this is a revelation, because Your work, your music, your art is your ministry. So whenever you go into any kind of Christian work, like that is the expectation. And that for me is not going to change. So anybody, whether you're a manager, the artists themselves, I expect you to have a certain level of spirituality, of Christ-centered work. And that is a non-negotiable for me. And that's just me. But that's what I require for me to consume your stuff. Okay? So once I saw that interview, I knew what was up. So Chandler's lawsuit, he's saying that he owes him millions of dollars. He had taken advantage of him. I think he is Travis Green's brother-in-law, and he used to manage him as well. And, that fell through. So I wonder what the backstory is there. But clearly, he just needs to go on and manage regular artists. And people can change. Maybe he has to go through some work and really find what his purpose is on this earth. But you came here, you played with people's calling, and you were motivated by your own selfish things. And obviously, they say we don't know the full story. The story is always in between. You get one side and the other. But I can only judge because when you had the opportunity to present yourself, the self that you showed. But yeah, so that's my thing. And they will have their day in court. And I hope, Chandler gets his settlement and everything. But I think even bigger than the money is just, like I said, I feel like that kind of music for us is so personal, so spiritual, so deep. So to even get from that place of okay, I'm just here just to serve God, to saying, let me start looking at the financials. I feel like it's no different from something that a lot of other artists go through. A lot of creative people, we always are like, okay, I just want to put out the work. I just want to put out this thing. And the world is constantly telling us, hey, you don't only have to be a creative, but you also have to have some kind of business savvy. Or else you're going to find yourself around people and situations that take advantage of you. It's a disservice to yourself to always say, I'm just going to do the creative. No, you have to learn how to do creative. You have to learn how to search. And if you don't know how to search, you hire the right person every day that can go and investigate your books to make sure things are right. When somebody tells you something, you make sure you get 2-3 other people to verify. That's just the way it is. So I think it's a general lesson for all creative people. We just have to make sure we're reading the books and we don't completely trust. The only person in this world you can trust is Jesus. Okay? I don't care. Okay, that's what happened. All right. Well, every 6 months, I'm doing my own books and investigation, and we'll see what comes out. I love you. Yes, I do. But this is business. Okay. So that's where we're at with that. Next up, Real Housewives of Potomac. Wendy Osefo and Eddie Osefo were arrested. And by now, everybody knows the story. So I'm not going to come on here and tell you the story that has been heard around the world for insurance fraud. Now, this is so layered. So I hope I have enough time on here because I don't like for the pop culture segments to be too long. So first things first, when I heard it, I was just like, what? And then I saw the mugshots and I first, because of the way she was smiling and he looked kind of sleepy and all that, droopy eyes, I was like, because I watched the show and I know that he has a weed business. I was like, were they using the night before they were arrested? Because that's what I could see right away. But, when you hear things in the media, I was like, okay. And then at first, the number I saw was $300. So I was like, somebody's going to get arrested for $300? That's the kind of world we're living in now. So I'm like, okay, let me look and see. And then I got more details about the charges and what it all involved. Now, first things first, I consume Real Housewives, all of them, the entire franchise. I think I don't watch New York. I haven't watched Miami in a long time. And I've never watched Salt Lake City. I've been told by my other Real Housewife fans that I need to get on it. So maybe I will start. But then I watch the OC. I watch Orange County. I watch Beverly Hills. I watch Atlanta. I watch Potomac. I watch New Jersey for sure. Yeah, I'm all caught up on New Jersey. So I watch quite a few of them. It's always interesting to me. I always do a case study comparing the white ones to the African American ones. And, for some of them, it's pretty much night and day. And we all that watch the franchise, we know what we already see. And it really helps to shine a light on America and what, even when you watch the African American centered shows and, how even the idea of wealth is displayed, it's so different. So for me, sometimes when I'm watching it, it really gives me a case study into America, right? So I watch all of them. And I think one of the things that I think over the years, especially for the ones that are Black cast, so the Atlanta Housewives, everybody came out and they were normal at first. And then as you saw the seasons progress, and people should progress, I like progression. We all like progression. You see more of the hair and then you come to realize, hey, they're having makeup. So not only are they having somebody styling their hair, somebody's doing the makeup. And maybe people just started resourcing more. So maybe not even all these services that are on these shows are actually them paying for it, but it's just people probably doing it so that they can get exposure. I don't know. I'm not on any of these shows, so I have no clue. But that's what I would imagine, that it's not every single thing they're paying for. But I think the bar was being raised. Like, I remember like there would be memes out there of people's hairstyles. I remember back in the day, Nene would try so many things. And then, you know, when she had that bob that was made to look like a hut. And I remember all the little memes that came out with the hair. Like, us as a community, we like to roast people. And I think to the ladies, probably they felt some kind of pressure that they had to present themselves a certain way, all of that. So when Wendy came on the show, she looked a certain way. She, you know, was a slimmer woman and didn't have any of these enhancements. And then as, you know, the other seasons went on, she came on with the bodily enhancements. So I wonder if there's a part of her that just felt like being on the show, she had to live up to a certain aesthetic. And that aesthetic required her to look a certain way, you know, be a certain way. So even though she first came on and she was the academic and that was what her pride and joy was, and a lot of her identity was formed on that, she at some point, you know, gave into what somebody probably told her is more marketable. This is what's going to get you more sponsorships, more viewers. This is how you're going to make money outside of, you know, when you're on TV. So I felt like maybe she bought into that a little bit. And I think all the women probably buy into that a little bit. I do now see like full on glam a lot more when I'm watching Real Housewives. I feel like when it first started, maybe you just did a little bit of hair makeup here, but now you're seeing full blown couture runway outfits. You know, a feather is going over here. You're having extravaganza all over you, and you're just sitting in your house on a Tuesday and they're asking you about what was filmed 6 months ago. That's where we are at now. So you have the fashions, you have the look, you have the homes. You know, somebody will start and maybe they'll have their 3,000 square foot home. And for the average American, that is a big deal. And then next season now they're moving into the 6,000 square foot. And then after that, now it's the 12. And I feel like that is there across all of the Real Housewives. And of course, you have different level of financials. You have housewives that actually need probably the income from the show to maintain a lifestyle, to have it. And you have housewives that really, it's like, I was bored. I didn't have anything else to do. Clearly, money is not an issue for me. So the only thing I don't have is fame. That's why I got on this show. And so, you know, we love to indulge all the different types of housewives. We have the housewives that just married somebody filthy rich, like in the Beverly Hills one. Well, who's that new one that's on this last season that's so quirky with all her, like, she doesn't even have like regular designer. She has like the runway, one of a kind purses. And it's the casualness of her for me. The one that was going on the trip and like packing all that candy. I'm trying to remember her name now. But I think her husband made like The Simpsons or something. And that's where her money came from. Yeah. So we've all like, we see all the different types of housewives there is. But I just hope that as the audience that we have not created a certain, or they feel pressured by us, like they need to live up to a certain standard because, oh, we're going to create memes about them, make fun of them, or like this is what's expected. And then maybe, like I said, because you're having different levels of types of housewives, you know how like sometimes women have that pressure to like keep up. So it's like not understanding that, hey, with everything in life, there are levels. First of all, is not understanding your level and being comfortable with it. My dear, I like fashion. I like nice things. I like all this stuff in my life. And I'm not saying I'm perfect over here. There have been times I've made some stupid financial decisions. And then other times I'm like, you know what? How can I do that within my budget? Like I see this and this is nice, but how can I recreate that in my level where I'm not killing myself and doing all that? And I think it's a conversation that needs to be had because you might be on the Real Housewives, you might be on TV, and compared to the regular person, that's a step up or two. But compared to maybe the other wives that you're on the show with, you're not at their level. And so if you're always hanging out with them and trying to act like you're at their level, maybe over time you're internalizing a lot of things, creating chaos for yourself, creating things that are not necessary. So I think for a lot of the women, it's probably also like remembering like where you came from. Look at your journey. If you were working as a professor and a lawyer, you already were like, you know, upper middle class of the American society. Then you got on TV, and from what I hear, some of these people get paid like $250,000 per episode. I don't know how true that is, but let's just say that is it. Like you are already part of the top 10, 1%, whatever it is, just by virtue of you being on the show. So you might not have, I don't know, Terry Dubrow money. You might not have Monique Samuels at the time when she was married to Chris. I'm trying to think of like some of the other ones that have come on. And even some of those women, some of their stuff, like people have said, can be questionable. But either way, always having a good benchmark of like where you've come from, where you are, and keeping that groundedness. And I think for sometimes, I guess it takes the work of those around you. Maybe that's where the ball was dropped as far as like holding her accountable to say, hey, this is too much. This is, whatever it is. I don't know what all their financials are. I feel like as more time goes, we'll probably find out more details about everything that's going on. That's the only joke I made. I was like, are they on that happy Eddie? And then when I found out all this stuff about, the insurance stuff, then it made me think of Phaedra. And I'm like, Phaedra, like when all that stuff was going down with her and Apollo at the time, she came out clean as a whistle because she was like, I don't know that man's business. I had nothing to do with that. He signed those papers by himself. And I'm thinking to myself, like, that's the only thing I could think of. Now, I saw certain people's take on it that I didn't quite like, to be honest, because I felt like there's a place and time for everything. And I think that's where like some of our cultural differences as people in diaspora come through. So like whenever you're speaking on anybody's relative, but especially mothers, fathers, especially the parents, you're already at a place where it's like it can quickly get disrespectful. So I saw certain takes where it's like, don't speak on somebody's mother. And then it's a cultural thing too. And I think that was like, this is like the downfall of the whole NECA thing when it happened on the Real Housewives of Potomac, when she came on there and brought a whole subject matter that people were then going to be like consuming, but not fully understanding the implications of it. So this whole Osu thing, I am Sierra Leonean. I'm not even Nigerian. I'm married to a Nigerian man and my husband is not even Igbo. So again, see the barriers that I even have to, as an African woman, that I even have to climb to even say I am capable of talking about this. But from what I have found out from the stuff that I have talked to actual Igbo people, and now I'm dealing with a new generation. So even this that I'm going to tell you or share with you is from a younger generation. It's not from the older. I feel like the older generation will probably have a better understanding of things, right? Anyways, so even as I'm about to explain to you, it's from me getting explanations from like the younger generation. It's a generational thing, right? So maybe like a grandfather or somebody in your family lineage had done something that had caused the community to like shun them or make them like an outcast. And so because of that action, because of whatever was done, then it's like that individual and every person following them, even kind of like the caste system. So then those people become other because they have done something. And obviously it's a terrible thing to have, but then it's like everybody that's a descendant of that person gets to suffer that until, I think she said until like reparations or something were made. And that obviously now with the younger generation, a lot of people don't believe in that. Obviously, it depends on how, spiritual you are. A lot of us now we come and we have other faith. Some of these things with, some parts of our African culture we don't believe in anymore. So maybe you're a descendant of that person, but you're like, hey, I am now a Christian. I am saved. So whatever that individual did, think about the mental state that somebody will have to be in. They didn't take this on. They're not the ones that caused the harm. They're not the ones that did whatever action that caused an ancestor to be ostracized from the community. But now you're saying everybody that's attached to that person is ostracized. So just think of like the mental space, right? So for a lot of us that end up having faith, you're like, hey, whatever Osun, whatever that is that was there, it's not there for me. And then sometimes that should explain like the religiosity, if that's even a word. How strong religion becomes to some of us, because if that is your background, then you are going to be that person that's like very fervent in prayer and very strong because like, hey, I have this in my ancestry and I definitely don't believe it and I'm going to break it because I had nothing to do with what that person did and I'm not carrying no curse or nothing on my head. So it's a very, very serious thing. And that's why when the issue was brought to TV in the first place, I was like, it should have never even made its way to that. Because again, even me, as I'm explaining it to you now, I fully understand that I could have explained it and it's not even like an iota of what it truly means and what is going on. Like that's how deep I know this stuff. I feel like from what I asked and the response that I gave, that's what I'm coming here to tell you guys. But there's room for like, I've missed so much. Okay? That's just me knowing that. So it was just something that was never supposed to come on TV. There's just no place for it. There's certain things within our culture that we just have to just leave within the culture because it doesn't translate well. Just like how we have certain words in our languages that you try to find it up and down to translate it to English, it doesn't happen. There are certain cultural things that do not translate. And I feel like that was one of them and it should have never made its way to TV. So, but it did now. And then it's there. And then people are consuming it. And some people don't understand the gravity of what that was and why people reacted the way they did. And now when this Wendy thing came up, then it's brought up again. Oh, you remember your Osu and that's why. Like, that is so insulting. Oh my gosh. Because if somebody's saying that about me, regardless of whatever else is going on, I'm going to have to fight you. You don't know my history. You don't know the things that I've had to carry because clearly for that to come on TV, that means there's a rumor going around. That was a point of infliction for her when her and Nneka were having those issues. So you don't know the whole story, but I just feel like it just kind of got disrespectful really fast. We can talk about the facts. We can talk about the fact that they kind of looked like they were on Happy Eddie. which the picture looked like the way the picture looked. We can talk about the fact that, you know, she kind of got lost in the sauce with all this stuff, and we'll just wait for their day in court. I don't know what explanations are going to be given, but there's always room. You know, that's what the justice system calls for. You're going to have your day in court and you're going to say your piece. And who knows what the future holds. They might come and just be like, hey, you know, we lost our senses for a little bit and this truly happened and it should have been just a small thing, but then we kept on adding things to it because we wanted to maximize. We made a, you know, oopsie, whatever it is. They will come back and take care of that. I don't know all the intricacies of it, but I just know like there has to be a limit as to how far we can go. Like we all like to be entertained. We all like to, you know, poke fun and make jokes and all that. That's, you know, part of stuff. But it's like there has to be certain lines that we don't cross. And once we start talking about people's parents and then, and then saying like a whole group of people, why all Nigerian scammers? Again, I'm married to one. I know a lot of them in my life that have very good jobs, have very great careers, that do not scam, work hard for their moolah, okay? Mine included. So why are we generalizing a whole bunch of people? There are people out here. Chimamanda the Great said it, you know, stereotypes is not that they're not true. It's just that they're not true all the time. So you might have dealt with some Nigerians that have certain characteristics. And maybe when you look at this case, it makes you remember that. But you can't take that and say all Nigerians are like that. Come on now. Stop it. I don't like it. So that's just my thing. We're all going to have our commentary. We're all going to, you know, make fun of the facts when we see it. But there has to be a limit as to how far we can go with these things. And especially we always have to remember that we're dealing with each other's cultures. Just like how there are certain things that when you talk about them for African-American culture, it's sensitive. I think understanding that when it comes to the African culture with certain things. And again, I'm not even Nigerian. I'm just adjacent. So I can only imagine what it feels like. And I just want us to just be kinder and think more when we're doing and saying certain things. So that's that. I have other points on here, but they'll have to make it to episode 2 because we are 40 minutes in and we're still talking about pop culture. Hello. What is going on here?